I guess that's the mission of why I do what I do in the wellbeing space, is to help people with invitations, I call them, these tools that are scientifically immersed, that are practical and delivered in a really fun way. And again, I want to be honest with people where I'm at, to again be very honest with people that anxiety, depression doesn't look a particular way. It can impact any one of us. It could impact a CEO. It could impact a celebrity. It could impact that homeless man over there in the bus shelter. It does not discriminate like cancer. And so it's really important that we normalize and destigmatize the conversation, so when people are not feeling themselves, they know that they're not alone.
So talk to me about if someone's sitting there just not feeling great, possibly burnt out, what are some of the signs you would expect to see in them?
So it's kind of varies for different people. Like what we say, it's that whole thing on, your body keeps the score. There's a good book out there called Your Body Keeps the Score. Pretty much sums it up in the title, right? Your body will tell you clues all the time. You are having issues with your sleep right now. You are tired, but you are wired. You are waking up in the middle of the night. You can't get yourself back to sleep. Also, tension headaches. How is your neck and your head at the moment? How about jaw tension? Is your dentist saying to you, do you know that you're grinding your teeth at the moment while you are sleeping? Have you got irritable gut? Do you have psoriasis back in your hair? Is eczema flaring up on your skin? These are all little clues to us as a human being. Are we listening? Because your body is trying to express something to you. And if we don't pick up on these clues, right, we start to slip. And as we start to slip down that spiral, things like exhaustion. You are so tired all the time. You have nothing left to give in your tank. Then we start slipping into cynicism, being more irritable at home, with the people in our life. We end up being irritable maybe towards the world in general. And then the third thing is reduced sense of accomplishment. We just can't produce in the same kind of way, like get into I call it beast mode. You can't get into beast mode, right? Where you're really, really highly productive. You're creative, you're innovative. You can't get there, and creativity will stifle. And one of the biggest red flags for me is when people say, I just don't have the time to do the things that bring me joy anymore because I'm too busy. Mm-hmm. That to me is a red flag.
Yep.
So it's going to present to people differently. I know how it definitely presents to me. And so as soon as I'm aware, because maybe I've slipped off the wagon, not doing all the practices that I do daily, or I miss my 6-week break, or, something happens, I take on too much work, and I slip. As soon as my sleep goes, I am onto it like a hawk. I'm like, right, yep. I need a mindset reset weekend. I need to scale stuff back. I need to simplify life. I'm like, what's happened? I've tilted out of balance here.
Yeah. And that's a good awareness that people need to have as well. And something that I've really kind of introduced and realized is that most of the stuff we put on our schedule, we put it on our schedule. And if we put it on our schedule, we can take it off, right? Like, a lot of the time we're in these busy lives and then we're like, actually, who caused that? Oh, that was me.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got to have the awareness that, hang on, like I said to you earlier, like obviously doing the speaking course, I was like, I took on too much in March, right? Like it was going to be a big month and then we had a cyclone and all those kind of things. But for me, I'm like, that's okay. There's certain things that I needed to kind of just let go, as Mel Robbins would say, just let them, and like for me, that then takes pressure off me because I can take the pressure off me.
Yes.
Like, the world is not going to end if there's certain things that I don't do, I think that's so crucial that people know that they can take things off their plate. They can take things off their schedule when they need to.
Yeah.
But I know there'd be people sitting there, Chelsea, listening to those symptoms and signs that you kind of went through, and they'd be going, but I just can't. I just can't stop, Chelsea. I've just got to keep going. Like, so what I'd love to know now is let's flip it, from a high performer sitting there just, kind of going bull at a gate, absolutely worn out, not being their best. Let's flip it to being a mindful high performer. Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
So I think, and for those people who are saying, I can't do it, Chelsea, I think something that helps me, and then I'll talk about mindful high performer.
Yep.
But I think for intrinsic motivation, something that really helps me is thinking about somebody that I love more than myself, and I think when you start re-anchoring why you do it for somebody else, like, so for example, our daughter Clara, right? She's the love of our life. She's the reason, that every decision I've made since I was sick is based on being a present, healthy mum. And it was actually my psychiatrist who said this to me, which was so brilliant from an intrinsic motivation point of view. She's like, Chelsea, if you get sick in the future, who does that impact? And I said, well, it definitely impacts me, right? I get sick. I need to take 4 weeks off from my mental illness to kind of rehab. And I said, she's like, well, that sucks, right, for you? And I'm like, yeah, I know. And she said, but who else does it impact? And I said, well, it directly impacts our daughter Clara and my husband Jay. And she said to me, does Clara deserve a burnt out, stressed out, anxious mum? Like, does she deserve that from you? And I'm like, no, she doesn't.
Wow.
And so she's like, so every day you do it for her. And so I think about that all the time. Even when sometimes I'm having massages, I'm like, Clara, this is for you, sweetheart. This is what I need self-care. But let's go back to the mindful high performer now. So I think that's a really beautiful way to help people. It was helpful for me anyway. Steve and my psychiatrist said that to me. So mindful high performance, let's talk about that. A bit of a juxtaposition, isn't it? The book, The Mindful High Performer, because people feel like you can't be mindful, have a mindfulness practice and sustain this very fast pace. Yet the opposite is true. If you're on 24/7, the brain is not designed, right, to be on 24/7. We're not a computer chip. Our organ is not designed to do that. We need proper scheduled circuit breakers and breaks. Otherwise, the brain does not recharge itself and you will fall apart. That is just the natural laws of the brain. So mindful high performance is about sustained success, like the sustainable momentum, performing at your best without sacrificing your health, right, your relationships. It's not about doing more and more and more and more. It's about, doing things that really matter to us with clarity and with a sense of calmness. And again, it comes back down to this, Steve, what was it, 3 weeks ago? I was at South by in Austin, South by Southwest. There's like 970 tracks on there of AI, and all the biggest speakers were there in our wellbeing space. I saw Peter Attia speak, and Huberman, and Prof G, and Esther Perel, and I was having a great time, Brené Brown. And then you'd get flung over into another panel discussion where they teach you how to build an app with 11 different AI agents and how to do that in an hour and upload it to the Apple Store. And so there's this shift happening in the world right now of acceleration. Accelerate, right? How do we use AI to get faster? I want to flip that into sustained momentum, because not every golden bus that we decide to get on is going to where we need to be going, right? It's not going to get us to the destination we need to, even though the opportunity could be shiny. So how do we be very, very decisive around the opportunities that we do say yes to? And then how do we make sure every day we schedule in stuff that takes care of the vessel, the home? Because here's the truth. If we don't take care of the home, right, this is the only place we have to live, this house of ours. And if we do not take care of it, we have nowhere else to live.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's pretty hard hitting, but that's kind of where the truth is at. And, I don't think you realize that until you get very sick or you have a friend of yours die around you. And then again, it's always these perspective shifts that pull us back into alignment for a short period of time. But I want people to do that for a long period of time. Look, take care of themselves every day.
Yeah. I see, obviously I watch you on social media, and, you got speaking events. And as you were saying earlier, I think before we hit record was, you love, putting shit on Jay and, obviously having a bit of fun and showing some funny things that happen, and, kind of taking the piss out of yourself a little bit, right? Which shows that humor, which is good. But you live a busy lifestyle, but I also see that it's not just standing on a stage. It's, if you're traveling, it's in a gym. It's really working on, calming your nervous system, working on your health and wellness. So I'd really love to know, what are some of your non-negotiables on a daily basis that you put in place to make sure that you show up as the best wife, mum, and human being you can?
Yeah, and Steve, to be honest, I'm not perfect, right? I dropped the ball.
None of us are.
Yeah, I know. We don't like perfect. But I'm getting a lot better at working out which glass balls I can't drop. And so a few things that really help me keep upright. So first of all is my sleep. I am like fastidious about my sleep. So when I'm on the road, I always take an eye mask. I take a magnesium supplement. I take my pajamas. I make that space feel as homely as I possibly can. The eye mask is to block out all light. So even if you've got a street light coming through, I do a half an hour unwinding period where I don't check tech. I will usually start it off with a gratitude journal. Usually I start off with some hygiene, hot shower, brush teeth, those kinds of nice things before I go to bed. Then gratitude journal for a while, 5 minutes. So think about things that happened that day. Then I read a book for about 10 minutes, or 10 pages or 15 until I start feeling tired. And then I listen to like a sleep guided meditation, usually Headspace, Andy. Love his voice. Dreamy. It's usually me and Andy every night in my bed. And
and Jay sometimes.
Jay's never in my bedroom. No, we sleep in separate rooms. Again, for my sleep. I mean, I love Jay. Girls are like, You sleep in a separate room from that guy? I'm like, I know he's hot, but I've seen him for like 25 years. Been married to him for 18. I'm okay. Not sleeping in the same room as this guy. My sleep's too important. So sleep, number one. Number two, when I wake up, my morning routine's pretty dialed in these days. A big part of that is that I will take medication every single morning. My medication keeps me alive. So I take they're called serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And so I take that every single day without fail. That's a non-negotiable. I will then go and exercise for half an hour every morning, without a doubt. Half an hour exercise every single morning. I make sure I hit that. So even if I'm at home at the moment, which I am, I'll take my daughter, right? We'll do a half an hour bike ride. We might go for a walk. We use our garage gym. When I'm on the road, it's a lot easier because she's not there. So I've got the schedule back into how I will set it. So I'll always hit the gym. Then I will have a really healthy brekkie. I will sometimes do warm shower followed by cold water therapy. And then I will kind of sit down and kind of reassess my day from the night before. I will always meditate somewhere in that day. So 10 minutes of meditation, non-negotiable for my life because I have a predisposition and a vulnerability to anxiety. And mindfulness and meditation clinically is outstanding for people who are vulnerable to anxiety. For depression, it's more exercise. But for anxiety, it's more of a mindfulness to calm down the nervous system. And so that is a non-negotiable in my life too. And so
I love that.
Things.
I love that reflection there and that sharing of, you're predisposed to like anxiety, right? Because I would look and say, and many would say that you're probably one of the leading experts that stand on a stage in Australia at the moment on wellness and wellbeing, right? But being a speaker comes with it anxiety.
Absolutely. And it's part of my DNA, right? So that's, and I guess that's the mission of why I do what I do, right? In the wellbeing space is to help people with invitations, I call them, these tools that are scientifically immersed, that are practical and delivered in a really fun way. And again, I want to be honest with people where I'm at in terms of what lurks behind my cloak to again, be very honest with people that anxiety, depression doesn't look a particular way. It can impact any one of us. It could impact a CEO. It could impact a celebrity. It could impact that homeless man over there in the bus shelter. It does not discriminate like cancer. And so it's really important that we normalize and destigmatize the conversation. So when people are not feeling themselves, they know that they're not alone. And when I was delivering this event last week to these family offices, I think their net worth in this room was like 40 billion or something. And I was sharing my story, and one of the beautiful fathers came over to me, and because his daughter went through it, and he said, I've never, ever heard anyone speak openly about postnatal depression. And we had a cry and we had a hug, and I sent his daughter my book. And he was just so flabbergasted that people were talking about this openly and how helpful it was. And that kind of blew me away, Steve, because I just kind of thought everyone talks about it these days. But maybe it's just because me and you talk about it all the time.
Yeah.